Mail front page says that Labour is accused of scare tactics over full jails. The Prime Minister expressed his anger at inheriting this problem.
Tell you how frustrated I am to be put in this position by the previous government. It's worse than we thought. It's a very basic proposition, which is you should have enough prison places for the prisoners that need to be in prison. It's a catastrophic failure. It's reckless to have allowed this to happen. We'll have to take the necessary action.
See, I wonder if that's a line we're all going to become very familiar with. I'm horrified and appalled at having inherited this from the last government. It's the sort of thing he could say several million times a day, every day, for as long as he's in government, couldn't he?
I just think I'm actually tired of both parties, you know, having this slanging match, accusing each other. If we look at the majority of our jails, they're Victorian. So clearly there's been an abject failure from both Labour, Conservative, when, you know, it was Conservative, Lib Dem. We haven't done enough to create the prisons necessary. We know that, you know, that we have a population that's increasing, so we have to facilitate what that's going to ensure.
Yes, but come off it, Lynn. I mean, we've had 14 years of a Tory government, and you notice it's the Daily Mail that's saying Labour accused of scare tactics over full jails. For months now, for a year now, we've been hearing that the jails are close to full, and the Tory government did not deny that. So the Labour aren't using scare tactics. They are just giving us the facts, and they are perfectly entitled. They've only been in office for a week. It is
a bit difficult, though, to establish the facts. I mean, we've heard the figure 250. We're down to the last 250 places in our prisons. We've also heard the figure 700 and 750. What we're told we need is about 1,250. It's quite hard to know just how urgent it is, but what's absolutely clear, Lynn, is that there hasn't been a campaign of building or a campaign even of what we used to be quite familiar with at school, which was the porter cabin in the grounds. You know, they ran a bit short of classrooms. You'd be in a porter cabin. So you think they might have, you know, mastered some kind of way of expanding.
Particularly when they are supposed to be, or they were supposed to be, the party of law and order. That's absolutely patently not the case. So the trouble is that the whole system, as everybody keeps saying, is broken. So from the shutting down of youth clubs, so kids and young boys are on the streets carrying knives, they've got nowhere else to go. There's from that into getting into the prison system. You get into the prison system, and if you weren't a junkie before, you'd soon be afterwards. The whole environment in prison, you know, it's supposed to be to punish you, to take you out of society, out of harm's way, and to rehabilitate you. And the whole rehabilitation thing seems to be completely out of the window.
And made much more difficult by the crowding in prisons. Very, very difficult to rehabilitate people if you're crammed to a cell and there's no chance for anything else going on.
I think the whole conversation is so damaging, though, with what could occur because of it. You know, if I was criminally minded, I'd be rubbing my hands, you know. We know that we're probably going to see a reduction in sentencing. We're going to see mass release, early releases. And I just don't think, on a whole, this is good for society.
Well, what do you mean the conversation? What conversation?
In terms of if we keep on hearing constantly, which, OK, it's the truth, but, you know, like I said, if you were criminally minded and just kept on hearing there's only 250 spaces left, we're going to have huge releases, you know, what is this going to do to many
but
who
surely
have
you're not suggesting that news is suppressed or repressed and nobody's told what's going on, are you?
No, what I'm suggesting is that if there are people that have that sort of criminal mind, they know that they're going to be faced with leniency when it comes to the judge.
But not necessarily leniency, but they know already. We already know that burglaries aren't attended. That you know, if your car is stolen. Well, shoplifting, exactly. So the only people who are scaremongering are papers like the Daily Mail and the Telegraph, because what else are they to do? I mean, they have had such string-pulling influence over the last 14 years. Well, it's ended. That's it. You know, and all the conservative members that are left fighting like rats in a sack. You want to say, forget it. You're irrelevant. At least 5 years. Just shut up, go away, consider what you've done, and try and, you know, come back, rehabilitate yourself.
I just want to know what you think, though, about the temporary, obviously, solution to this inherited problem, which is to let offenders out of prison when they've served only 40% of their sentences, given the enormous palaver involved in tracking them down, arresting them, bringing them to book,
A lot of wasted
waiting for the
money.
court procedure, all the court, hearings, the lawyers and the defence and everything else. They finally get into prison and then they're let out after just serving 40% of their sentence. I mean, what do you think of that?
Why can't we build temporary, like you said, like the porter cabins? We need to do more building, even if it is a temporary solution before we erect.
But building is not going to solve the next 6 months. And I think we're talking about the next 6 months or a year, aren't we?